Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Good news, the UnRaid box is now up and running and not beeping its head off. But it did not go entirely smoothly, as you'll soon see later in the video. Following on from my previous UnRaid video where I had roughly cleaned up and transferred over all of the hardware from my old UnRaid box into a Supermicro CSE-743 chassis, I managed to power up the system, but the chassis was continuously beeping. After diagnosing the issue, the beeping was actually coming from the power distribution board, buried within the power supply cage. This beeping usually indicates a power supply fault, overheating, a failed internal fan, or an imbalance in the redundant power supply setup. I checked everything and the problem appeared to stem from a faulty power supply module, so I removed the faulty module and we finally got up and running, without the thing beeping its head off. I can now focus on the most important part of the process, transferring over all of my drives and the SAS controller from the old case. I've made a mental note of which ports connect to which group of drives by pulling on each of the cables to see which port they were connected to on the SAS controller. Not that it actually matters, as UnRaid uniquely identifies and organises the drives based on their hard drive serial number anyway, but I wanted the transfer to be seamless, and this should further minimise any potential issues. The final component to be removed from my old UnRaid box is a 120GB OCZ Agility 3 SSD that is being used as a cache. It has served me well, this little drive, released on 10th of May 2011 with a sequential read speed of up to 525MB per second and a sequential write speeds of up to 500MB per second, running on the SATA 3 6GB per second interface and utilising the LSI SandForce SF2281 controller. I've installed the Agility 3 into the 5¼ inch drive bay, neatly hidden out of the way. For the SATA controller to communicate with my SAS drives through a passive SATA backplane, I've had to invest in some new cables. These cables are SFF 8087 to 4 SATA forward breakout cables. A unidirectional cable used to connect a RAID controller, host bus adapter or motherboard host port to 4 individual SATA hard drives or SSDs.
我要跟张罗网嘛。
After a bit of faffing getting the SATA breakout cables attached to the backplane, I can now install the SATA controller and simply plug the other ends of the breakout cables into the 2 ports on the controller with a nice clicking sound as the cable locks into the port. That is now all the hardware transferred over, just a little finishing touches before we can put the lid on, install the SAS drives and fire him up. So far so good, just having a look into the BIOS to check that everything is looking good and to check on the chassis fan settings. After a reboot, disaster struck once again. Now running on only 2 power supply modules with no redundant to take over, the system would not power up. If I removed the faulty module, the system would power up, but as these modules only put out 380 watts max, and the Threadripper 1950X being a bit of a pig in relation to power draw, I thought it would be a good idea not to do that, as I really wanted to get this machine back up and running, so I went back to the drawing board. After disconnecting all cables attached to the power distribution board and removing the entire power supply cage, I resorted to a rather crude method of fixing the Corsair CX650 from my old UnRaid box to the Supermicro CSE-743 chassis. The method being attaching a zip tie around the power supply cables coming from the front of the PSU around this hook on the chassis to prevent the front of the PSU from dropping onto the motherboard, and jamming the back of the PSU into the opening, and it seems fairly solid. I don't think he's going anywhere. After doing a little once over to check everything was looking good, finally I am able to fire this thing back up. I still have no idea if my controller is even going to detect my drives, but we're soon going to find out. Initializing, and boom, detecting all 8 Seagate drives, which is absolutely brilliant. All I need to complete my home lab is a nice 12U rack for my UnRaid box to live in, as the box is ready to go once I attach these ears and sliding rails. There are a few little things I still need to revisit, for example the front panel LEDs, as what should be the hard drive LED appears to be lighting up what should be the power LED, so I'll need to take a look at the front panel adapter as it may be wired incorrectly, but other than that it doesn't affect the machine from running, and I love all the blinking drive activity lights, they just look so cool, as well as being more practical for removing or replacing disks than my previous box. Wasting no time at all, I had the UnRaid box working on rendering video to test how everything was running, and to check on temps, as it's been rather hot here, with the ambient air temp of almost 33 degrees Celsius. The difference a week makes. 10 degrees cooler, and the UnRaid box has been running for 9 days, 8 hours and 25 minutes up to now with my rudimentary PSU fix, and I've had no problems. We're just running a parity check now at the moment, and I'm pretty happy with how this transplant went, even with the problems I had with the power supply modules. These kind of problems are expected when repurposing old enterprise hardware, and with a little bit of determination and workarounds, we got there in the end. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. Take care everyone.